There are certain fighters in the UFC who haven't looked like the same fighters they once were. These fighters are going through a rough patch as of late, where their performances show that it would be better for them to walk away from the sport with the victory. So here is 5 fighters who should stop fighting. Number 5. Takanori Gomi is one of the most well-known names coming out of Japan. We had put together great performances in Pride. However, once coming into the UFC, he has struggled to put together wins against the top lightweights in the world. He has 4 wins and 8 losses in his UFC career, where he is currently on a 4-fight losing streak. His last win was over Isaac Valiflag, where he won the fight by unanimous decision at UFC 172, and last lost to John Tuck by rear naked choke at UFC Final 111. At the age of 38, I believe his performances inside the octagon show that he is not the same fighter he once was, and hopefully we get to see him pull off a victory before he walks away from the sport. Number 4. Rashad Evans was once the king of the UFC light heavyweight division, where he had captured the UFC light heavyweight title impressively. Once losing the title, he remained at the top of the 205-pound division, where he had defeated the top names impressively at that time. In 2013, he went through a rough patch where he was sidelined with injuries. After nearly 2 years away from the sport, he came back and lost to Ryan Bader by unanimous decision at UFC 192. He was then knocked out by Glover Teixeira at UFC on Fox 19. He next dropped down to the middleweight division and lost a split decision to Dan Kelly at UFC 209. At the age of 37, he has had a great UFC career where he has accomplished many things. Hopefully, we can see him retire with a great victory. Number 3. Antnio Rogrio is one of the most well-known MMA veterans who has nearly faced all of the top names in his mixed martial arts career. He has had many ups and downs in his UFC career, but has pulled off victories over 2 former UFC champions in Tito Ortiz and Rashad Evans. Even though he still wants to compete at the highest level, we have seen in his recent performances that he has slowed down tremendously and has struggled to pull off a victory inside the octagon. He last lost to Ryan Bader by TKO at UFC Final 100. At the age of 41, it seems like he is very close to the end of his mixed martial arts career, and hopefully we can get to see him pull off a victory before he walks away from the sport. Number 2. Andrei Arlovski was once the face of the UFC, who was just destroying all of his opponents. Back in 2015, he came back better than ever, where he had put together 4 impressive victories over Brendan Schaub, Antonio Silva, Travis Brown and Frank Mir. He was just 1 win away from a title shot until he faced Stipe Miocic at UFC 195, where he lost the fight by TKO in the first round. From this moment onwards, things went downhill rapidly for Andrei Arlovski. He next lost 4 fights in a row to Alistair Overeem, Josh Barnett, Francis Ngannou, and most recently lost to Marcin Tybura by unanimous decision at UFC Final 111. He is now on a 5-fight losing streak and is on the verge of getting cut from the UFC roster. At the age of 38, he has accomplished so much in his UFC career, and hopefully he can walk away from the sport with his hands raised. Number 1. Vijay Penn is one of the most recognizable names in MMA. At one point, he was one of the most dominant champions in the UFC, where he was just defeating fighters with ease. He was able to win both the UFC lightweight and welterweight titles, where he became a huge star in the UFC. After losing to Frankie Edgar twice, Vijay Penn has gone through many ups and downs, where he doesn't seem like the fighter he used to be. His last win was over Matt Hughes in 2010, where he won the fight by knockout at UFC 123. He is currently on a 5-fight losing streak and last lost to Dennis Siver by a unanimous decision at UFC Final 112. At the age of 38, he doesn't have much left to prove, and hopefully he is able to pull off a victory before he walks away from the sport.